300, 330, 337.45.
That's 4 times what we got.
Gold. In the Klondike, it's earned through loyalty, pain, and time. Chris Doumit was Parker Schnabel's most trusted man, until he wasn't. He quietly walked away and joined Rick Ness. No one saw it coming. And when he did, it felt less like a transfer and more like a knife in the back. The bedrock of a mining dynasty. To understand why Chris Doumit's departure felt like such a deep cut, you have to understand who he was to the operation. He wasn't just another employee, he was part of the original story. The funny thing is, Chris was never supposed to be a gold miner at all. He stumbled into it. Back in the very first season of the show, he was just a carpenter, a man hired by the Todd Hoffman crew to build a cabin. He was good with wooden nails, not sluice boxes and pay dirt. But in the chaotic world of gold mining, plans change fast. When another crew member failed to show up for work, Chris didn't hesitate. He put down his hammer, picked up a shovel, and stepped into the gap. He never looked back. But no one could have guessed that the same man who once saved a crew by showing up would one day shatter another by walking away. He rode the roller coaster with the Hoffman crew, learning the trade through trial and error, mostly error. He saw firsthand how a team could fall apart from bad decisions and broken promises.
I figured out how to avoid these problems or to work around them.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 29. There it is. We're over 30.
So when that crew finally crumbled, Chris, known for his steady work ethic and no-nonsense attitude, landed with Parker Schnabel. At the time, Parker was just a kid, a young, intensely driven miner trying to make a name for himself. He needed more than just strong backs. He needed stability. He needed people he could count on, and in Chris Doumit, he found his anchor. Parker didn't just give Chris a job. He gave him the most important job on the whole site. He put him in charge of the gold room. This wasn't a role for just anyone. The gold room is the final stop. It's where all the hard work, all the fuel burned, and all the hours spent digging in the mud are turned into actual, countable gold. It requires incredible attention to detail, precision, and above all, honesty. Chris was perfect for it. He handled the gold with a quiet reverence, ensuring every flake was captured, cleaned, and weighed correctly. He became more than an employee. He was the keeper of the treasure, the guardian of the gold. For fans watching at home, he was the calm center of the storm, a man who brought a quiet dignity to a loud and messy business.
I think we have to have a talk about your spending practices. You find a lot of...
Oh, I know.
How much of it's been on property the last 2 years, right?
Over the years, through record-breaking seasons and crushing setbacks, Chris earned his place. He was Parker's rock. When things got messy, he never flinched. He was the last person anyone would ever expect to walk away. As Parker's success grew, so did his ambition. The goals got bigger, the risks got higher, and the pace got faster. It was no longer enough to just have a good season. Every year had to be better than the last. Every season had to be a new record. This hunger for more changed the very nature of the operation. It wasn't a single crew working a single cut anymore. It evolved into a massive industrial-scale enterprise. The biggest change was the decision to run 3 separate wash plants at the same time. On paper, it made sense. More plants meant more dirt could be washed, which meant more gold could be found. But in reality, it was a logistical nightmare. These wash plants weren't side by side. They were spread out, often miles apart, separated by rough, winding dirt roads. One plant might be chugging along at the main cut, while another was positioned at a smaller, exploratory site, and a third was working through a different type of ground altogether. It was like trying to run 3 different businesses at once, all under the relentless pressure of the Yukon clock. The freeze waits for no one, and every day, every hour, was a frantic race to squeeze every possible ounce of gold from the earth before winter slammed the door shut. This kind of pace doesn't just put stress on the machines, it wears down the people who run them. The constant hum of the engines, the endless parade of rock trucks, the 24/7 nature of the work, it creates an environment of unending pressure. And Chris Doumit found himself standing directly in the eye of this hurricane. His job, once focused and manageable, exploded in complexity. He was still in charge of the gold room, but now he wasn't just handling the pay dirt from one plant. He was responsible for all three. That meant triple the cleanups, triple the sensitive equipment to manage, triple the careful, painstaking work of separating gold from black sand, and most importantly, triple the pressure. As soon as he would finish a cleanup at one site, the radio would crackle to life with a call from another. There was always another load waiting, another pour to be made, another count to be tallied. There was no break. There was no time to catch his breath. There was no one to help carry the immense weight of his new responsibilities. Like he always did, Chris put his head down and tried to power through it. He was a professional. But even the strongest rock can be worn down by a constant, punishing river, and the cracks were beginning to show. A day in the life of burning out. Imagine what a day was like for Chris during this time. The sun isn't even up, but the generators are already roaring. He grabs a quick coffee and heads out into the cold morning air. His first stop is the main wash plant, Big Red. The drive itself is a challenge, navigating a muddy, rutted road that rattles the truck. He gets to the plant, and the night shift has just finished their run. The mats in the sluice boxes are heavy with a full 12 hours of material. He begins the careful process of the cleanup, pulling the heavy mats, washing the concentrate, and running it over the shaker table. His movements are precise, born of years of experience. He knows that a single mistake could cost thousands of dollars in lost gold. While he's working, his radio is a constant source of pressure. "Hey, Chris, you got a copy?" A voice crackles. "We're about ready for a cleanup over at Slucifer." That's the second wash plant 5 miles away. He acknowledges the call, his mind already racing ahead. He still has hours of work left here. After finishing the cleanup at Big Red, he secures the gold, logs the weight, and gets back in his truck. There's no time for a real lunch. He eats a sandwich while driving, the truck bouncing so hard he has to be careful not to spill his drink. He arrives at Slucifer, and the process starts all over again. Another set of mats, another wash, another long session at the shaker table. This time, there's a problem. A water line connected to the distribution box is leaking, sending water all over the floor. It's a safety hazard and could damage the equipment. He has to call it in, wait for a mechanic, and try to work around the issue. The delay puts him even further behind schedule. By the time he's finished, the sun is starting to set. But his day isn't over. The third, smaller plant, located at an exploratory cut even farther away, is also ready. He gets back in his truck, his body aching and his mind numb with exhaustion. He drives through the twilight, the headlights cutting through the dust. He does the third and final cleanup under the harsh glare of portable work lights. It's late into the night when he's finally done. He drives back to the camp, his eyes heavy. He knows he has to be up in just a few hours to do it all over again. This wasn't just one bad day. This was every day. The breaking point came quietly. Chris, recognizing that this pace was impossible to maintain, asked for help. He explained that he couldn't be in 3 places at once. He needed another set of trained hands, someone to share the load. But Parker, a man so locked into his spreadsheets and season goals, didn't seem to understand the human cost of his ambition. From Parker's high-level view, the operation was working. The numbers were good. The gold was coming in. The request for help was seen as a small problem in a large, successful machine. No backup ever came. For Chris, the message was loud and clear. His well-being was less important than hitting the next record-breaking number. The decision to leave didn't happen in a fit of anger. It grew in the silence of those long drives and lonely nights. Chris started to look at the big picture. He thought about the more than 10 years he had put in, the loyalty he had given, the family events he had missed, and the physical toll the job had taken on his body. And he came to a painful realization. No matter how much he gave, No matter how hard he worked, he was still standing there alone, carrying the weight of 3 operations. Meanwhile, a familiar face was making a comeback. Rick Ness, Parker's former foreman, had been through a difficult time. He had stepped away from mining to deal with personal issues, and many people in the Klondike thought his career was over. But Rick returned. He was leaner, more focused, and trying to rebuild his life from the ground up. He wasn't trying to build an empire. He was just trying to run a successful, manageable mine. He needed a team he could trust, people who knew the business and wouldn't crack under pressure. He needed someone exactly like Chris Doumit. All it took was one conversation. There was no secret meeting, no dramatic negotiation. Rick, knowing the pressure Chris was under, likely just reached out. He couldn't offer the same kind of money as Parker. He didn't have the biggest machines or the richest ground. But he offered something far more valuable: respect, balance, and a chance to breathe. He offered a partnership. He probably said something simple like, "I can't do this alone. I need your help. We'll be a small team, and we'll have each other's backs." For a man who felt like he was on an island, the promise of having someone's back was everything. The departure itself was as quiet and professional as Chris himself. There was no shouting match. No cameras were there to capture a dramatic blowout. He simply finished his work, packed his bags, and left. He drove away from the mine site that had been his home for a decade and drove towards something new. When the news broke, the shock was immense. Fans couldn't believe it. On social media, the reaction was explosive. Some called him a traitor, a backstabber who had abandoned the man who made him a star. Others cheered him on, understanding that a person can only take so much. But everyone agreed on one thing: it was the most unexpected move of the season. It felt like a line had been crossed, and it left a huge hole in Parker's crew, not just in skill, but in spirit. A different kind of wealth. Life on Rick Ness's crew was different from day one. Everything moved at a slower pace. This wasn't because they were lazy. It was because the work was deliberate and thoughtful. The frantic energy of Parker's mind was replaced by a calm focus. The days were still long, and the work was still hard. But there was room to think, to plan, and to breathe. Chris no longer had to sprint between 3 different sites. There was only one wash plant to manage. There was only one cleanup to do at the end of the day. The machines weren't giant monsters, and the crew wasn't stretched to its breaking point. It was a small, tight-knit team trying to find gold and, just as importantly, keep each other going. Rick was a different kind of boss. He didn't hide behind production charts or manage from a distance. He was there, in the dirt, working alongside his crew. He'd crack a joke, ask how someone was doing, and actually listen to the answer. That presence, that feeling of being seen as a person instead of just a number on a payroll, meant more to Chris than a bigger paycheck. Of course, this new life wasn't a perfect dream. Rick's small operation didn't have the massive budget or backup resources of Parker's empire. When a machine broke down, there wasn't a team of mechanics ready to fix it in an hour. They had to fix it themselves, often with used parts and sheer ingenuity. The financial risk was much higher. A bad week could put the entire season in jeopardy. Gold was still gold, and it never came easy. But Chris hadn't left Parker's crew to find an easier job. He left because the noise of the constant pressure had become too loud, and the weight of the responsibility had become too heavy. What he found with Rick wasn't an escape from hard work. It was a way to keep doing the work he loved, but in a way that wouldn't break him. You won't believe it, but the thing is, it's really strange, but what's really going on? You see, behind the scenes, the Chris Doumit situation opened up a Pandora's box of fan theories. One of the most popular is the Klondike conspiracy, which suggests that the producers deliberately manufactured drama to boost ratings. Some fans believe that Parker's relentless pursuit of records and his seeming indifference to Chris's burnout were scripted or at least heavily exaggerated for the cameras. They point to the fact that reality TV is rarely real, and that the intense pressure cooker environment of the show is designed to create conflict. Another theory revolves around Rick Ness's comeback. Some viewers speculate that his return wasn't entirely organic. They suggest that the producers saw an opportunity to create a compelling storyline by pitting former allies against each other. The historic betrayal, as it's often called online, became a central narrative point, and some fans believe that Rick's recruitment of Chris was orchestrated, at least in part, to heighten the drama. It's really strange, but the thing is, what's really going on behind the scenes? One of the most persistent rumors is that the gold totals are often inflated for dramatic effect. While the show meticulously documents the weighing and measuring of the gold, some viewers suspect that the final numbers are sometimes tweaked to make the stakes seem higher. This theory is fueled by the fact that the show's primary focus is entertainment, and a record-breaking season makes for a more compelling story. What really brings up a lot of questions are the lost footage theories. Over the years, there have been hints of conflicts and events that never made it to air. Some fans believe that these deleted scenes hold the key to understanding the true dynamics between the miners. They speculate that the producers carefully curate the narrative, presenting a specific version of events while leaving out details that might complicate the storyline or make certain characters look less sympathetic. The Chris Doumit situation also sparked a debate about loyalty and ethics in the high-stakes world of gold mining. Some fans argued that Chris was justified in leaving a toxic work environment, while others felt that he had a responsibility to stick with Parker, who had given him a chance. This debate extended beyond the show, prompting discussions about the balance between personal well-being and professional obligations. You won't believe it, but the thing is, the historic betrayals in the show aren't limited to Chris Doumit's departure. There have been other instances of crew members switching sides or breaking alliances, often with dramatic consequences. These betrayals, whether real or manufactured, have become a recurring theme in the show, adding layers of intrigue and suspense to the already intense world of gold mining. What is loyalty really worth? Is it staying with a crew, no matter the personal cost? Or is it being loyal to your own well-being? Chris chose himself. He traded the security of a gold mining empire for the sanity of a smaller, more human operation. His quiet exit created a loud debate and left a permanent mark on the landscape of the show. It served as a powerful reminder that in the quest for gold, sometimes the most valuable thing you can find is a reason to keep going.